Hello and welcome to the Paperboys podcast, where we review the biggest stories of the week. Check out our website at thepaperboys.net to read about these stories as soon as they happen. I'm Matthew Phillips.
I'm John Fain.
Let's get right into it.
All right, let's check our first story. I believe it was Trump getting banned permanently from Twitter. This was on January 10th, a little over a week ago.
It was followed by Facebook as well as Amazon, wasn't it? No, Amazon pulled Parler. So did Google, didn't they?
Yeah, but
No, App Store's what I'm thinking.
the Trump thing happened first, started with Twitter, then immediately after they did ban Parler, or they took down Parler after the Capitol riots.
Right.
So they both happened at about the same time,
Yeah.
actually. But he was originally banned for 14 days, right? And then indefinitely.
Yeah.
Are they allowed to do that?
The left's argument is that private company, we can do what we want, is our platform. People on the right say violation of free speech. So pick a side, I guess.
I mean, they are both right. A business is allowed to do whatever they want, honestly, but it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sound right. But I mean, in fairness, if I was Trump, if I were to announce anything, don't think I would do Twitter. I would go to the, press secretary and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think it was a good move, but I guess you can't really fight it legally.
Yeah, and
their
their CEO came out later and said they weren't setting a very good precedent. So
we'll just have to see. Maybe this will cause some other law to be passed in the future if the right somehow were to ban a left wing. That would be interesting. But immediately after that, Trump didn't end up attending Biden's inauguration. And he was the
first since Nixon to do that. It was one of only 4 or 5 presidents to do that.
I think it was 4. Nixon, John Adams, John Quincy Adams, and I don't remember. Ronald. No,
it wasn't Reagan.
I don't think it was Reagan. That's not that important, really. If you were Trump, see, the problem is Trump thinks that he won the election and that it was stolen from him. So he didn't attend, I guess, out of spite, sort of, kind of just, he doesn't believe that he lost. He's not conceding to it.
Yeah.
If I was Trump, or if I was me, and I thought it was stolen, I think I would still attend. I think I would. Just to, accept that that's how it is and try to move it over smoothly without drama.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. I can't honestly say that I would. If I had that much faith that it was taken from me, I don't know if I wouldn't do the same thing.
I mean, I could see it because I would just think it's like he's going out with a bang,
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that it's not true, but I mean, all of us people, we have no idea. We just have to listen to what we're told from everyone.
Yeah, it kind of wrapped up his entire presidency. None of his presidency was very orthodox. He was always kind of combating the standard for a president his entire term, and
Yeah, for better or worse, he didn't exactly do things the normal way,
Yeah.
but I think his biggest problem this past week really is just he's going to really struggle to get people to remember him in anything other than negatively.
On the left, at least. I think on the right, for the very far right, it what's the word I'm thinking? It gathered more support, for the
Yeah,
like
especially
the way right, just to see
especially
that.
after he was banned,
Yeah.
because people will see it as
Yeah.
like unfair and
Yeah,
abusive of power. So I can see that, but I think for like a normal person, everybody is just kind of listening to the news here and there, and he's kind of, to me, him not attending the inauguration is unnecessarily disrespectful, regardless of the circumstance. But that's really just how he does things. He doesn't respect people. Well, enemies, honestly.
yeah.
He plays his cards right.
Let's get into some market stuff. Bitcoin reached an all-time high, $41,000 per Bitcoin. So that's that made a lot of people some decent pocket change.
And yeah, they were projected to hit what, 146,000. I don't know what the time frame was, but I'm pretty sure it was by the end of the year, or was it like soon, like a couple months?
Probably at least a few months. Yeah.
Because I know because Bitcoin's now it's at I think 32,000 as of the 23rd of January. But I bought into it when it was low. It's got super high, and I bought more. You bought more, and now it's just gone back down. So that whole, like, they had I believe 17% spike over the past like 10 days, and now we're back to where we started. So I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I've been seeing a lot of Bitcoin stuff everywhere. I believe people are comparing it to gold, like it's the new gold. Maybe not standard, but like it's going to replace gold.
A lot of people were leaving gold, buying into Bitcoin, and that's what drove a lot of the optimism, I think, for that 146K price target.
And like there was a really big drop both today and yesterday, bringing it from like I think 36,000 all the way down to 32. And I've seen some stories of how, while it is falling, a lot of individuals are selling. A lot of those were like really big firms are kind of going all in right now, expecting it to bounce. I'm still holding because I don't really care. I don't have thousands to put in there.
Yeah. And what was the number we saw today that 40% of their holders own the large portion of Bitcoin out there or something?
I think the number was either 15 or 2,500 individuals own 40%.
That's right.
Of the volume or market cap, whatever you want to call it, which is probably not good. That's why the price changes so fast. But most people, I think, are in it for the long term. Like I bought while it was hitting up to that 40K, and I was expecting it to keep going up, but I did know it was going to drop some when the sell-off happened. I just didn't expect it to sell off so much. But I'm still going to hold until as long as I can, because I expect it to go up with as much news as it's getting right now. I expect it to go up. And I mean, this was all the way back. This was the 10th, and I mean, it's only been 13 days since then, and it's gone up and down $10,000.
Yeah.
So it's not the most safe investment, but I think it has potential for stuff in the future. I think we're heading that way.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the 5-year growth. It's insane how much it's multiplied.
And I was telling you about the tweet of the guy like 10 years ago, who he was saying that he's so glad he didn't buy into Bitcoin because it dropped down to $2.70 each, and now it's, if you were to even buy, like it's the thing with any stock. If you bought it then, you'd be a millionaire now, but you just don't know.
Yeah, and I saw another thing where back when it was worth fractions of cents, and a guy bought pizzas for like 1,500 Bitcoin.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
just threw it away. Imagine what it would be worth today.
I think I read about that same guy, and he says like he doesn't regret it because he just couldn't have known.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did get a pizza out of it, so
yeah.
I mean, hey. But yeah, this Bitcoin being the next big thing might be not true. I think it already is the big thing. And I think it is going to slow down a lot for now. But I think something will happen. We'll bring it back. All right, but let's move on to Parler because we already talked about it a little bit earlier. What day was this? This was also the 10th. Heavily conservative social media outlet Parler to be suspended at midnight. So Parler got taken down from every big provider or host like Amazon, Google, Apple after the Capitol riots under, I don't know if you want to say claims or like proof that the Capitol riot was incited. What is the right word here? That Parler promoted the Capitol riot as a good thing and promoted basically illegal actions towards the capital of the United States.
Yeah, and kind of like the left's argument on the Twitter deal about banning and censoring conservatives, Trump was private company, yet Parler seems kind of weird to me that they don't seem to have the same kind of rights as all the big tech companies, you know.
And it's funny because you're right. Like Parler, there's, and I believe they are back up now.
Yeah, they're now up.
But yeah, like they didn't have a choice and were taken down by everybody else. But at the same time, legally speaking, the companies that got rid of it were still acting as a private business, were they not?
Yeah.
So they were, if that's their right, they could do that. It's just very, I guess, hypocritical almost.
Yeah.
So it looks very hypocritical, and it looks really bad for the left, honestly. But I do think they legally are allowed because the controversy was that they broke off contracts. I believe Parler sued Amazon because they had a contract for a few years, and Amazon's rebuttal to that was that because of Parler's, I don't know, illegal activity or whatnot, immediately broke that contract.
Yeah. And why was there no warnings, like, to Parler itself, to the administration there? Why could they not have taken steps like, all right, you better shut these people down that are promoting violence? If this was what the reason was, why didn't we shut these people down instead of taking the whole site down, you know?
I believe part of it was moderation. I don't think they had any like censorship. I think that was part of their business plan, was no moderation, which, well, it's a good idea and everything, but the easy answer for Apple, Amazon to keep their brand, just to keep their brand in the positive light, the easiest answer was just to drop the service. And sure, they might lose, I don't know how many people are on Parler, but there's a lot more people that aren't on it. But they are back up now, so something happened. I don't really know the
They
details on
won a
that.
suit against
They did.
Amazon, I believe.
Okay, I thought I heard that they lost that suit before it actually happened, and now that they are back up, I do believe if it was that suit or another one against Amazon. And it is concerning, like, this whole the media controlling everybody, because it is just the the big three or four, Twitter, Facebook, and what's the other thing I'm thinking of?
Twitter, Facebook, Apple, Amazon.
Yeah. It's mainly Facebook and Twitter, and then Apple as well, but they could do it a different way.
And all four exceeded previous year's donations to political lobbying in this year's election, which was
the whole, I don't know, donations to campaigns and elections is really sketchy. There's a lot of shady business that can happen, and there's a lot of good that can happen through it too. It's just that's a really tough problem to fix. I don't know where you would begin to fix that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to limit spending. You don't want to limit support, but you do want to stop bribes and blackmails and things like that. I think that has to be very case by case investigation.
Yeah. And following the fiasco at the Capitol, there were death threats made against Mike Pence, and they were being investigated by Secret Service. It got so bad. So
yeah, and I believe that started after it was Mike Pence refused the request from Trump to decertify the results, or to not certify the election results. And this is interesting because this shows you that it was a very specific group of people at the Capitol. I'm sure there was some diversity there, but they were all claiming to be Trump supporters and whatnot. But Trump himself didn't really have anything to do with the Capitol riot, correct?
No.
Or at least nothing. Maybe his Twitter, but all of those tweets that he was tweeting were getting deleted automatically.
Yeah.
So we can't see what he might have been saying, if anything. But yeah, these death threats against Mike Pence. This follows Parler and everything else, actually. Like with your phone, the legal teams are able to... Yeah, that was the problem with Parler, is that they had a whole archive of every post ever, deleted or not. And the Secret Service has access to all of it.
Oh.
So regardless of what they said, if it was a threat of some sort, they are investigating it. But I mean, I don't know how much of that was a serious threat. It was probably just, oh, I hate this person, they should die type of deal.
Yeah.
But we've been seeing a lot of arrests about the Capitol riot lately, and I'm sure there will be many more. I believe there was another story. I don't know if we ended up posting it. It was just like the sheer number of people. There was like 60 or like 90 in ongoing investigations right now, dealing with the riot.
Yeah.
The article of impeachment against Trump. So the House Democrats introduced a new article of impeachment against Trump under the claims of incitement of insurrection. So basically saying that he was telling his supporters to basically, raid the Capitol and do other unruly things. But the basis for it that we saw was only a couple of quotes. Do you still have them?
I'm gonna find them.
I think they were taken
out of context and misinterpreted. Seemed like.
I believe Trump did say a few things that were probably not the best idea, especially like when he told Pence to decertify the results. I'm not sure what else he said via Twitter and whatnot. But I don't know about this impeachment against him based on actual evidence. And it did happen. He did get impeached on I don't remember what day that was. Relatively recently. I believe it was. I think I can check. It's right here. What day did it pass? Doesn't really matter. In the end, he was impeached. You got those quotes?
Yeah, his first quote was, "If you don't fight, you're not going to have a country anymore." Followed by a few sentences later, "We're going to the Capitol." And his full quote of that was, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them." So
when he said we're going to the Capitol, he did mean physically and not legally, as in, like, the decision of the election is going to go to the Capitol. He meant literally people are going to physically go to the Capitol and support or not support Congress, men and women. I believe this, I don't know about the impeachment itself, but the Twitter ban was done preemptively. It was done in fear of him inciting insurrection and violence. But this was done after that happened, and after the whole Capitol riot was done and over with, and he was blamed for it, pretty much. But the actual evidence for it that we have isn't much. I don't know what evidence they used in their vote, but did they not just use a majority vote to pass it?
To pass the election results? Or
the impeachment? The
new
article.
Impeachment, yes. It was a 2/3 majority pass. No. I'm sorry. It was just a simple majority in the House to impeach. And 10 Republicans joined all.
Mm-hmm. I believe that is our
Democrats.
I don't think that's our next article, but that is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of the protests, let's talk about this here. The FBI warned armed protests being planned at all 50 state capitals and in Washington, D.C. This was on the 11th, so I believe the day after the Capitol riot, or maybe a couple days after. Multiple people expected on Inauguration Day something was going to happen.
Yeah. Whether that be at the Capitol or just around the country at state capitals.
There was talk of, like, crazy things such as martial law and actual control. I had multiple friends who were like, "Oh, something big's going to happen come January 20th. I'm ready to see what's going to happen, expect." They're stocking up on food, supplies, bullets, guns, in fear of this big event that, as we know now, is non-existent. But there was actual fear that something was going to happen.
And the whole conspiracy behind that, the motivation behind it was the possibility of, under martial law, Trump could announce another election to hopefully win that time.
I mean, and that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And not even wishful thinking. That's just that's trying to loophole the system. And I don't remember much about the martial law deal, but I know that it's it's very serious. It doesn't happen. People don't just, you can't just
It's only
enact
happened,
martial law. It's under war, is it not, or
yeah,
what?
It's only happened a very few times, and
It's always an emergency. It's like a national
yeah,
level emergency, whether that be, I believe hurricanes sometimes cause it.
it's happened at smaller levels of government.
Yeah, like
too.
because like the National Guard and stuff, they have to control this certain area.
Yeah.
After I believe Katrina might have done that. But it was wishful thinking, and fearful thinking that something on Inauguration Day was going to happen. I know Biden had a lot of security that day.
Oh yeah.
Right here, 15,000 troops deployed at the Capitol itself, not even everywhere else. That was just at D.C. And I mean, I thought something might happen. But I wasn't thinking anything crazy. I just thought there might be maybe another protest wave, but in the actual communities. After the FBI warned, I expected local precincts to have, their own protests. But
Yeah.
we didn't really, I mean, there were a few, but we didn't see anything. Nothing crazy happened.
Yeah. It's kind of all died down. Another thing dealing with the Capitol violence, CNN's Don Lemon said that you can't compare the Black Lives Matter violence over the summer to the Capitol violence here recently. He said, "I'm sick of people comparing. You can't compare what happened this summer to what happened at the Capitol. It's two different things. One was built on people, on racial justice, on criminal justice, right and reform, on people not beating up, or police treating people of color differently than they do whites. Okay? That was not a lie. Those are facts. Go look at them. What happened at the Capitol was built on a lie perpetrated by the president and the people who support him." So he's pushing the whole impeachment deal with this was all incited by the president, whether that was true or not. And
I think his point is valid. The two, if you want to call them riots themselves, although I know the Black Lives Matter, it's a protest, not a riot, but I think the point is the reason behind the protest or riot, whatever you want to call it. Like the Black Lives Matter is this almost this ethical approach to where this just shouldn't happen, whereas they're wanting change, whatever that is, whereas this Capitol protest was basically forcing laws to be broken with the whole election. They wanted to overturn the election, which are different things, but the actual violence that happened during each one I think is comparable, because the protests that happened, there was the infamous CNN news, I guess, article. It was really on the TV that everybody saw it, that said, peaceful protest, whatever, with the building on fire behind it. Like, that didn't make any sense. So there's the similarities in that both they did have violence. At the Capitol, I believe, was it 1 died or 5?
at the Capitol, it was
I believe it was 5.
Yes.
And it was the one police officer that I always think about.
A few were by personal medical mishaps, like asthma, stuff like that, I believe. I don't think they were all like
Gunshot.
shot like the police officer was.
Okay. I do think, though, that each one was not equally violent, but they were both violent. However, they're only considering the Capitol riot to be violent, whereas the protests the violence is like a means of getting what they want.
Yeah.
Which is not fair, I guess. I mean, there's a time and place for violence, but not really in social settings, not in cities. with civilians just minding their business, blocking off roads and things. It gets their point across. It gets them news. But I think they are comparable. I think they are.
Yeah. Saying that there's reason for violence doesn't make it not just as bad. I mean, it's still violence.
Yeah, like if there was a protest and they advocated violence, just because they say that violence should happen, all the people that enact crimes, basically anybody that commits a crime, they will still go to jail for it. Like, and that's part of the whole idea of the movement is like, they will enact this violence till their point gets across, but those people should still be held responsible, especially when it's, I believe, multiple businesses and things. Way back in, when was that? Like March? When the big protest, I believe it was the George Floyd protests, that multiple things were, destroyed. But that was a long time ago.
It was.
That was almost a year ago now.
Man.
But let's move on, because that's an old topic. So yep, on the 13th, Trump was confirmed impeached a second time, for the first time ever of any president. And both impeachments were in the House, correct? Or was because it had to go to the Senate for him to be removed from office?
The first time?
Yeah. So
the House impeaches. The Senate decides whether they will convict or acquit him.
So what was the reason for a second impeachment if he's already impeached? If he's impeached...
Well, you can bring charges and not charge him with it. Like, the first time they impeached him, brought charges against him, the Senate acquitted him. This time, they brought more charges against him.
So it's like a different... As if it was a trial, it's different crimes were committed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. Because I was thinking, why would you impeach a second time? But yeah, so this is in hopes of a conviction.
Yes. And the article of impeachment is incitement of violence, and it passed. All 222 Democrats voted yes, followed by 10 Republicans.
Yeah, and the Senate trial was, I believe, February 8th, or week of February 8th.
Yeah, it's scheduled for the week of February 8th. So
okay, that'll be a big one.
Interesting to see who takes what side, because especially with a lot of senators just got reelected and they have another 6 years, they're not so worried about reelection right now. But it will be interesting to see what side they take.
Moving on from the political, let's get to a little bit more of a fun topic. Yeah. Space Force. Space Force headquarters established in Huntsville, Alabama. That's not the same area as the NASA center over there.
Yeah, it's the same city. It's going to be around the same area too, which is pretty cool.
And we've both been down there. What is it called? It's like
it's the Huntsville Space and Rocket Center, and it's like an amusement park / museum / rocket research center. So it's pretty cool to go see. The Saturn V rockets there that took Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the trip to the moon. It was pushed by the new senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville.
I think it's a good spot for it.
Yeah.
I don't really know where else they would put it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the other big NASA location is in Florida, maybe, or there is
Cape Canaveral.
They use it, whichever one. Yeah. But like Space Force, it almost sounds dumb, like something out of a movie. It's literally Star Wars, but real life.
The members are called Guardians of the Galaxy, which is pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure that was intentional as well. I don't think, we have these spaceships shooting lasers up there, but we do have naval ships that do shoot lasers and take down planes and drones with them. So whatever we actually have, and I believe the Space Force was created because of the satellite issues, a lot of competing satellites and satellite weapons, which I didn't even know existed.
Probably spy stuff, counter.
It'll be interesting to hear about this as an actual branch of the military, and seeing the kind of
very futuristic branch, ahead of its time, I guess, ahead of everyone.
Yeah, but we are seeing, we're seeing Elon Musk especially moving all of the, or pushing for all of the space exploration. I'm ready to see where the Space Force goes.
It'd be cool, and I wouldn't doubt that it'd be followed by other countries pretty soon too. Everybody wants to keep up with the United States.
I do wonder how many countries can have it. I believe only a very select few.
Yeah.
Because, allies of the States, honestly, it's probably not worth it. A country the size of the UK, they have a big presence, but they are a very small country. I don't know if they have the resources. I don't even know if we have the resources for this. But so far, so good.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting. A socialist. He's a socialist is what he is. And he's already come out with a plan to give people that are living in extreme poverty $2,000 a year, which is really nothing. And he's come out with a plan for a universal basic income, which is a socialist policy. That's like the definition of socialism right there.
So the actual story is that Andrew Yang, who did run for the 2020 presidency, has announced that he plans to run for the mayor of New York City.
I guess against de Blasio, the current.
All of his policies are very, very socialist, and I believe he means very well. He wants this equality push, but at the expense of specific people, which is unfair. He wants fairness at the expense of an unfair group of people, which is, of course, I believe the rich is usually the socialist's enemy is the rich. Everybody wants to be rich, but personally, I believe that this whole socialistic push of something like this, of all this tax the rich, we deserve that money. They shouldn't be getting, people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk now is number one, the hundreds of billions of dollars they have. But I think it's very punishing for people aspiring to make that kind of money. If you want to become rich and you know that in the next 10 years, if you get above this certain dollar value, that your taxes are going to go up to I don't know what it was, 70% or something crazy, then there's no point, and you might as well just get the handouts. It's easy to not work.
Yeah.
And I think that this promotes it.
Yeah. Who wants to work hard to get to that goal when you're just going to have it taken from you and given to other people that decided not to work hard for what they have and make something out of themselves? That's the American dream, is to work hard, maybe start a business, become successful.
And I'm going to take this. We have another story, so let's skip over to Biden here with the, what is it? Is it the 17? No.
No, It's the
The
10
$1.9 trillion
Right.
stimulus plan,
Right.
with Biden pushing for the $15 minimum wage. This is like a really big topic, but this will go back to this whole Andrew Yang's socialism ideas. A lot of people think that this minimum wage, it's not like socialist or anything, but it will do harm. And I honestly don't know unless we saw it, but there's a lot of reason for hurt, and there's a lot of reason for, well, there's a lot to gain as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense in our urban cities that are a lot bigger, where the cost of living is much higher. $7.25 is not really a livable wage up there. Down here, $15 an hour minimum wage is not sustainable for employers. Like, you can't pay that when that's a pretty decent $15 an hour is pretty decent pay. You can't. Some people just can't do that. I mean, when that's the baseline that you can do.
And I think the reason that this plan, not this one specifically, but the $15 wage is so popular is because, I've worked minimum wage job, and I'm like, of course I would want $15 minimum wage. And you see all these really big businesses, and you think, yes, they can afford it, and I believe many can. I do think that the current market does have the younger generations paying much more for things such as houses and cars. I believe were the main things that have really risen in cost. The cheapest car you can buy new is $14,000. So I do think that there needs to be maybe not some sort of change, but I do think that we are in some trouble. I think that the workers themselves, the people employed, they do have their work cut out for them. I think it's more difficult to find a high-paying job, but they're out there. And honestly, I just think this pushes for more entrepreneurship. I think it really means the solution for people is business ownership, but clearly not everyone can own their own business.
And also included in his new stimulus plan is another wave of $1,400 stimulus checks per person, $1,200 checks for the spouses of undocumented immigrants.
Does that mean like illegal immigrants?
Yes.
Or okay.
That are here illegally, for the spouses. So the immigrants themselves will get $1,400. Their spouses will get $1,200. I don't know where that came from.
Is it? Well, the undocumented wouldn't get the $1,400, right? Because they wouldn't have Social Security numbers and stuff that the IRS could send the money through. So is this a plan to basically try to support some of the illegal immigrants by giving to their legal spouses? Because marriage does make an immigrant legal.
Yes,
they marry
yes.
a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
So
okay, you're right. So the spouse that is documented will get the $1,200 for his illegal undocumented spouse.
Now, my personal problem with the whole stimulus checks is that dependents don't get them, which makes sense, obviously. If parents get the money, they don't need to give them to. The IRS doesn't need to pay again, but the college students do hurt from it. However, the people who aren't claimed as dependents do get it. I just want money.
Unemployment checks will also be upgraded $100 from $300 to $400 a week.
And I believe related to that, Biden is I don't know if we made an article about this or if this was posted today. That Biden is going to make it so that you are able to file for unemployment if you quit for fear of coronavirus endangerment at your job. I believe that was an article today. Which that could be a problem for the business owners themselves. I mean, it sounds like a good idea. You should be able to be safe and not have to worry about it and be able to get the government funding, but that could see its own problems.
Yeah. But where were we before we jump back up at
We were down by the Andrew Yang. We were at Andrew Yang.
Okay.
And his socialist push.
And then Don Lemon comes up again. He's pretty says some pretty controversial things. This time he compared Trump supporters to Klansmen and Nazis. So pretty bold to lump 75 million people and compare them to Nazis. Kind of.
Yeah, I think this is a case of the whole what is it? Like every dog is an animal, but not every animal is a dog. Whereas a very, very small percentage of Trump supporters have become the go-to example. And what am I trying to say? Not leader, but they represent the entire group of people. When in reality, it's, you and me and just normal people who pick a side that we think will benefit us. I don't agree with calling them those things, but after the Capitol riot, I can see why they did it. I think that was a very bold statement looking for some attention.
Yeah.
I think it was for attention.
Oh, he's always looking for attention.
Okay.
Don Lemon craves attention.
Well, I don't know much about him. I don't keep up
yeah.
with Don Lemon, but I'm sure I will in the next few weeks.
Yeah. You'll probably... he'll say something else, I'm sure. Biden revealed an 8-year citizenship plan for immigrants. The bill was intended to be the first order of business. This was before he was inaugurated. The bill would grant immediate green cards to thousands protected under TPS and DACA. The chances of the bill passing in the Senate are unclear. It'll likely pass in the House. Pretty self-explanatory there.
I'm going to touch on this because two things. One, I support an 8-year citizenship plan. I don't know the details or whatnot, but whatever makes it easier for immigrants to become legal immigrants, I think is a good thing because it will stop illegal immigrants. That is a problem. But two, I don't know if it should be the first order of business. I think there are more pressing problems, and that should just be something that is worked on in the meantime, in the background.
Yeah, like bringing unity. And I mean, there's a big divide right now in the country. We should probably be working in the country instead of working on foreign coming in. We need to heal that divide. Then we can get to those other matters.
This is a very vague speculation without any basis, but it could be an attempt at foreign. What is it? Is it foreign affairs? What am I trying to say? Foreign policy. Basically, it might be trying to heal some of the damage that Trump has done to other countries. He has clearly made enemies and shut countries down, especially China. Whereas this might be a positive thing towards these other countries that they can, agree on. But I do feel like this one's very specific towards our southern borders and not necessarily China or anything like that. But I do think it's an attempt at positive foreign policy instead of all this negative, against all of our other countries that make up the rest of the world. But immigration reform is super important. But I do think making a faster path to citizenship is a good idea, because if I wanted to travel the world or buy land and whatnot in the UK, and all of the EU, I believe, you need to be a citizen, and I don't know what the details are, but I wouldn't want to have to wait 8 years.
Yeah.
If I plan to move to another country, I wouldn't want to have to wait 8 years. And I believe that you can go there, and you can be on the whole travel visa, and you can, if you find work, I believe. Now this applies in the U.S. If you find work, then your employer can pay for your visa, or vouch for your visa. I mean.
Yeah. Supposedly there's long waiting lines to get in, and to fully become a legal immigrant, and that fuels a lot of the illegal immigration. Is nobody wants to wait,
Yeah, I think that comes from the situations that they're coming from.
Yeah.
Like refugees and whatnot, they don't have the time to wait. That's where you get to kind of the hard details, because you don't want illegal immigrants just because they're undocumented people that we don't have any backgrounds on. So we don't know
if they're
who they are, and if something happens, we can't identify them as anyone. So we do need immigration reform, but I think this is a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
A faster plan for citizenship, I can support it. The only reason I wouldn't support anything like that would be, I don't know, crazy amounts of spending taken from somewhere else to put into that. But I think it's something positive coming in from one of the first few days. But like I said, more pressing issues, I believe, at the moment.
It was announced that Trump was going to release his list of pardons on Tuesday, but I believe it came out on Wednesday, actually. And he was projected to pardon Julian Assange, WikiLeaks founder, but that one was a little too dicey and not very promoted by U.S. officials, so he kind of stayed away from that one. But those on the list included former advisor Steve Bannon, that he helped him get reelected, as well as Lil Wayne, the rapper, and Kodak Black, another rapper, along with other local government officials that had charges, like Judge Jeanine Pirro's ex-husband, was also on the list. So
I think the biggest thing to get out of this was Assange. The speculation about it. If it did happen, is he still in Russia? Was it?
One of the little Eastern European countries. He's over there somewhere. I'm not really sure.
What do they call that? When a country supports, is it extradition?
Extradite.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think he could ever be pardoned in the U.S.
No, he's just too much of a threat to national security, I believe. That's just what he does. I mean,
the man's gonna run out of countries.
He is. He's gonna have to move to another planet before it's over with.
We're supposed to be getting to Mars by, I think, either 2024 or 2026. So maybe he can go to Mars.
Maybe.
All right, Biden plans to sign 17 executive orders on his first day in trek to erase the Trump legacy. This goes with, he's reportedly expected to immediately stop border wall funding, rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, which is intended to combat climate change and sign an order to put racial justice and equity at the center of our agenda.
And he did all three of those things, turns out. All of them.
And so he has done all of them as of the 24th today.
Yes. And he...
I can see stopping the border wall funding. That's a priority on his list. The Paris Climate Accord, that's just cracking down on what pollution was it?
Yeah, it's carbon dioxide stuff, regulation, all that.
Now, my thing with that is, climate change and everything should be fought, but it also shouldn't be priority over more sensible things like, success. I don't know the best way to word it, but I don't think the U.S. are the biggest concern when it comes to climate change. I think we already do a pretty good job in terms of pollution and everything. So if somehow they can focus on other countries with much higher waste and emissions. All of the U.S. is pushing towards electric cars right now anyway. The traffic emissions will be very low in the next 10 years, I believe.
And Iran wants, along with going back to the executive orders in general, Iran wants Biden to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal. I guess they're running out of money. They want us to give us more money.
So what is this nuclear deal? Is it uranium in return for money? Who has what? The U.S. has money.
We have uranium.
We have uranium, and they
want the uranium.
Isn't that not a good idea?
Probably so. Yeah, being they're not a great friend of ours and threaten us nearly every day, but
yeah, because Iran's not an ally of any sort of the U.S. and Trump did assassinate the Iranian officer, I believe, a long time ago at this point. But yeah, I don't think we should help other countries get nuclear weapons if they're going to be a threat to us. Maybe help countries that will help protect us from our enemies.
The Obama Biden administration ended up, the deal that they struck was a $1.7 billion cash deal. So I'm trying to look more into it we ended up giving them $1.7 billion is what happened. I don't know if that was like a treaty thing. You're not going to attack us in exchange for this. And there was a lot of hostage stuff going on along with that. Like, they had hostages of ours, and we ended up sending them a good bit of money and
for their release.
In exchange for release of the hostages.
And this is all just so that Iran can have nuclear weaponry and
defend themselves, quote unquote.
Which that's needed in the modern day for defense, but
yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea at all. I don't think anybody thinks it's a good idea. What is the reason? So Iran wants Biden. Are we considering it? Do we know? Is there any reason that we would do it?
Biden seems to agree and seemed to agree with a lot of what Obama did when he was his president. So I wouldn't doubt it. And I think even now that he is president, Obama is one of Biden's closest aides, and he's still in his ear a lot. So Is it a
So-
possibility? Definitely. Will
What-
it happen?
What would we gain from this deal? What would the U.S. gain? Obviously, Iran would gain nuclear weaponry, but
Let's look at the definition.
the Secretary of State did say that the Biden administration is a long way from rejoining the
Yeah,
pact. Whether
yes.
that means a long way from agreeing to it or just that's a lot of legal work that needs to be done, I don't know.
Okay. We placed significant restrictions on their nuclear program, and we paid them to kind of y'all keep it down. Okay.
So we gave them money in return for them not making nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And so the deal would be they can have nuclear weapons, but I'm just guessing here that we don't give them the money anymore. We don't have to pay this deal, I guess is what it is. We don't have to pay for them to not nuke us.
Yeah. President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the deal in 2018, claiming it failed to curtail Iran's missile program and regional influence. They began ignoring the limitations a year later. And then it says President-elect Biden has pledged to return to the United States to the JCPOA if Iran resumes compliance and they start doing it again.
Okay, so I can see that. So rejoining the deal isn't giving Iran nukes. It's stopping them
Yeah.
in return for money.
Yes.
Well, this is probably not the best foreign affairs method, but can we not just threaten them and not pay anything? Can we not just threaten them? Like,
That's the Trump method.
yeah. I
Biden
mean,
and Trump are.
but Iran has, is it oil? Or is that, do we get anything from them, such as, I know oil is like a really big thing in the Middle East. I don't know if Iran supplies us or not. Because if we cut them off and they cut us off, that's not good. But like I said, honestly, even if they did, we could still just threaten them again.
Yeah.
But that's not the most peaceful method. So this one's still kind of up in the air. I think we'll have to see where that goes in the future. And here, so Biden was planning 17 executive orders. Then I don't know, that doesn't really count as an order here, the Iran deal. But I don't know, I believe this is 10 more. He signed 10 more on Thursday aimed at the pandemic currently.
Yes.
The orders included a mask mandate for all public travel, rejoining the World Health Organization, which Donald Trump pulled out of. So yeah.
Also includes mask mandate on federal property.
I saw something about that.
Mhm.
I believe if a few were under fire for
Biden himself was.
yeah.
At the Lincoln Memorial, he was speaking without a mask, which was kind of funny. Right the day after this came out, which was.
Now, I'm no science expert, but I do think, you're alone, you're outside, there's no reason for a mask or anything. But, if a mask mandate and all this stuff is going to stop the pandemic, I'm all for it. The mask is very convenient. I mean, my only problem with masks is that they're expensive. They're pretty expensive right now, but I'm sure that's for obvious reasons. One important thing that's happened is Biden did say that the pandemic will get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I believe they're expecting 500,000 deaths this month, I think.
This month?
By the end of the month.
500,000 deaths?
We're going to reach 500, not 500,000 more.
Okay, I got you.
I did word that poorly.
We're at, what are we at?
I believe it's over 300.
It's over 400,000. It's probably about 410 right now.
Okay. So it's obviously a problem, but the way to fix it is really a struggle.
Yeah.
But we've got vaccines and things coming. Do we have an article on vaccines?
Yes, right up a couple of articles to the top. Biden announced a COVID-19 vaccine plan. They're to begin a new plan developed by the nation's top disease experts, which is to cover at least 50 million with a new vaccine distribution. So, going to get out to a lot of people. He said, we're going to make sure they work free from political interference and that they make decisions strictly based on science and healthcare alone, science and health alone, not what the political consequences are.
One thing to take from this is the 50 million with the new vaccine. It's going to cover 50 million, but it's because there's going to be 100 million vaccines and 2 doses. I did not know that it was a 2-dose system. I thought it was 1 shot and you're good to go, but I believe you have to wait a certain amount of time in between. Which is probably why it's taking so long to get them out to everybody.
Yeah.
Not much left. You want to cover it? Let's cover the good news story. Let's get away from the serious political events that happened. So in Texas, a detective by the name of Josh Smith was at least credited with gifting a new bike to a boy after his was destroyed by a case subject, just a random criminal. This is just a random story on some good PR for the police department. We often see the bad news, but it's good to know that there's still plenty of good things happening as well.
Yeah.
And also the credit for the bike itself was a little bit confusing. It says that the detective Josh Smith gifted him the bike, but also it says that the bike and helmet were donated by Team Texas for Families. So I'm not entirely sure where the bike came from, but it was an interesting story. Anything on that?
I think so. Just a feel-good story. We need it sometimes after all the...
If you want a not so good feel-good story, Larry King died today, or yesterday at this point, at the age of 87.
Yep, 87.
And who was Larry King? Because I hear the name all the time.
He was a real famous radio personality. He won 2 Peabody Awards and an Emmy. No cause of death has been released at this time. He was being treated for COVID-19 in the weeks leading up. But you've seen the B movie, haven't you?
Of course.
He made an appearance in that as Larry B. King, which is kind of funny. But he was just a real popular for his interviews and stuff. He was interviewed a lot of famous people especially in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, because his name, I believe, is a household name, but he's just now getting a little bit outside of the realm of, popular people. Like Oprah, you don't really hear about her that much, but back in the day,
yeah,
very big influence. And I believe, the 90s and 2000s radio was huge, especially in cars.
Oprah,
so that was
Larry King, Rush Limbaugh. There was a lot of radio was big back then.
Yeah, like they would. That is today's celebrities. That was social media people back then.
Really.
They were. That was the social media at the time. And last article is that people are already trying to impeach Biden 4 days after he's been inaugurated. Actually, 3 days because this was yesterday.
Yeah.
What was the reason?
It goes back to his time as vice president with his son's sketchy dealings with Ukraine while he was on the board of Burisma. Kind of the controversy was that maybe Biden was using that for personal gain, abusing his office. So the article of impeachment is abuse of power.
I think that this is a really badly timed
Yeah.
claim. Personally, I don't know too many details about it, but the whole point of Biden is this whole, unity. Now, we need unity, as we've said, in the country. Everybody's split red or blue right now. And this was just like, bam.
Yeah.
We can't impeach every president that people don't agree with. People need to.
It seems like we have the majority. Let's impeach him. It's like anything calls for that impeachment, and this one probably won't go anywhere just because
And
Democrats.
It was so long ago too. It's
Yeah.
really hard to find.
Yeah, it wasn't during his time as president because it was only started 3 days ago. It's just, she's saying that he's unfit to run for fear that he will abuse his office, just like he did as vice president, supposedly.
I think this is another case of wishful thinking. This was just kind of a attempt, see where it goes.
Yeah.
But I don't. This is like another extension of cancel culture, which is, I believe, a very big problem. One person with social influence says anything that can be seen as offensive to anyone, and all of a sudden they can find their careers down the drain. Whether that can happen to the president of the United States, I don't know. But I do think it's very, not disrespectful, but what's the word? Like there's a very specific word. Intolerance. Yeah, it's very intolerant of who you disagree with. She can wait. Is it a male or female representative? They can disagree with Biden, but still work under him, and not just immediately go for a Hail Mary shot in the dark.
Yeah. Impeachment has become a lot less rare than as before. I mean, only 3 presidents have been impeached, Trump included, along with Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson. I always thought Nixon was impeached, but he wasn't. He resigned before he was impeached. But it's like,
it seems like the easy way out.
Yeah, it's not as much based on even fact as much. It's like a feeling thing, and it's a lot more partisan driven than it should be. Like, impeachment should be, you're doing what's not right for the country. We're going to charge you with this. If they find if they feel the same way, we'll get rid of you. I mean,
so I did have a question, because I don't know how all this stuff works. If somebody were to have not committed any crimes, but majorities voted him to be impeached, can they still be impeached?
Yeah.
So if somebody in the House,
they have to have an article of impeachment.
Let's say that they come up with something that sounds relevant, but is later found to be false, and they are officially impeached. If the Senate's decision is to remove him from office, can they remove him from office without evidence? Can they just do it with a majority vote, regardless of?
As far as I know, and it's got to be it's not just a majority; it's a super majority. It's got to be 2/3, 66%.
Well, that number should in
that
theory
makes it a lot harder.
Happening.
There's been talk about Trump running again in 2024, whether or not he will. He's indicated at stuff that he may, or in some shape or form, make a move somehow.
This is my own personal take, but I don't think he should.
Yeah,
Just because
he's going to be old.
He'll be. I don't know how old, but
78 or so, approaching 80.
I think we're overdue for a president that is, Obama wasn't very old. He was only, I don't know how old he was, but he wasn't approaching 80s
No.
by the time he ran again. I think Obama was our younger recent president, was he not?
I guess so. Since JFK probably, or
I would
Yeah,
love to see a president
guess so.
in his. I would love to see a president in his 40s, but that might be a little bit too much. Maybe 50s, because it takes time to get to that point. If you're
Yeah.
running and if you're holding other offices.
Back on the political motivated impeachment, there was a lot of speculation that was the reason that they were going to impeach him, is so that he couldn't run again, because the way they would do that is impeach. If the Senate voted to remove, which it looks like a few, maybe even Republicans are going to jump on the bandwagon with the Democrats and vote to acquit. To convict. Whether that'll be enough, probably not. Say they did,
And
they
that
would
has to
hold
be-
it.
That has to be the 2/3 vote.
Yeah, they would have to have 67 senators vote yes. After that, they would hold another vote, which would require a simple majority of 51. That would bar him from running again for public office. So there was talk that maybe that had something to do with it. Who knows?
Whether Trump runs again or not, I don't believe he will win again. Not through a full election. If this one was quote unquote stolen, or if other support was, not there, I think his chances are really, really close. I think they're not close to getting it. I think that he's going to have a hard time
Mm-hmm.
if he wanted, because he's got his loyal supporters, of course, but he
Yeah.
needs to sway people
Yeah.
to get the majority vote. And I think it would really depend mainly on his opponent. I think that's what elections are these days. It's just the lesser evil.
Yeah.
Biden was really just the lesser evil between Trump and Biden.
Yeah.
Trump was the lesser evil between Clinton. I think if we could have just better candidates that are a little bit more, I think just younger alone would help.
Mm-hmm.
Policies would come along with the age as well.
Yeah. Whether he runs or not will be dependent mostly on really his health. He's getting up there in age, and how Biden handles his term, his first term.
If all of Biden's stuff were to go
If he does
horribly
great,
down, then Trump would have a decent chance. But if he does great, then
there's
the election's usually expected
yeah,
of presidents. I expected Trump to get another term just because I thought he did well enough.
yeah,
But that was not the case. Obama got 2 terms. Before Obama was Clinton, correct?
before Obama was Bush.
Bush, right. I was just thinking Obama then Clinton. I expect a president to always get 2 terms unless they really screw up somehow.
Yeah,
The Trump and Biden election, honestly, people don't even know if the election results were legitimate, with air quotes there. I think it takes a lot to rig an election, so I'm going to claim that it was legitimate. But we should probably wrap up. It's been, let's see, 20 minutes. And this is because we had to go back so far. We did more stories. Because this is our first podcast, we had to pick up a few stories that were important because it was Inauguration Day 4 days ago. A lot has happened. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
Alright, well, thanks everybody for listening. We will be back next week with the same deal, different stories, and it should be shorter, I believe. That is our plan. But, thanks. Bye-bye.